For truth and diversity, come to Radio See Me.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Radio See Me. This is your host, Aaliyah Ewing. Today we'll be discussing one topic only, and that is ableism. Ableism is discrimination against people with disabilities. Today we're going to be joined by Ashley Amato, Bernardo Perez, and Dr. Greg Gillespie to talk about ableism within VCCD, which stands for the Ventura County Community College District. To give you a little bit of a background, Ashley Amato is a Moorpark College student with a disability, here to show that she stands up for people with disabilities that attend the Ventura County Community Colleges, as well as those who hope to attend one day in the future. She is currently a returning student at Moorpark Community College, taking general education classes to get her AA in child development. Previously, she had taken child development classes and got her 24-unit certificate in child development in May of 2019. Outside of school, she's involved in the Special Olympics Southern California, bowling, baseball, soccer, and cheer. Her future goal is to work with children with special needs between the ages of 2 to 4. She also attended the ARC of Ventura County Community Integration Program on Cochran Street in Simi Valley. For those who don't know, the ARC of Ventura County is an amazing nonprofit dedicated to improving the quality of life for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The ARC of Ventura County has been integral in helping us set this episode up, along with Cindy Liu, who wrote many of the questions that are going to be asked today. Ashley is part of the advocacy and Project R groups through the ARC of Ventura County. In this advocacy group, Ashley and other members advocate for themselves and other people in the community who have disabilities. To learn more about the ARC and how to get involved, check out their website at thearcvc.org. So with that being said, Ashley Amato is here today representing people who have disabilities within the ARC and those with disabilities who attend colleges in Ventura County, because she wants to let other people like her know that their hard work and perseverance means that they can also succeed in our community college system. We'll also be joined with elected official Bernardo Perez. Bernardo Perez currently serves on the College Board of Trustees, which oversees the community colleges in Ventura County and makes decisions related to the district and the 3 colleges. There are 5 trustees, and their elections are held in even-numbered years, so 2020, 2022, 2024, etc. The terms are 4 years long, so since Trustee Perez was re-elected in 2020, he'll be serving until re-election until 2024. This is the same way our City Council, Park Board, and School Board are set up in Simi Valley. All eligible voters in Ventura County can and should vote for College Board. As a youth sports coach, community volunteer, and elected official, Bernardo has passionately given back to the community he loves. Since 2010, he has represented District 4 on the Ventura Community College District Board of Trustees, where he advocates for Moorpark College's students, faculty, and staff. Additionally, Bernardo serves on the Advisory Committee Legislation and the Diversity, Equity, and AMP Inclusion Task Force for the California Community College League, ensuring our region's interests are advanced in statewide policy making. Bernardo also served 12 years on the Moorpark City Council, including a term as mayor of Moorpark. Bernardo and his wife Victoria have been married for 51 years and are the proud parents of 2 grown daughters and a son. They love and enjoy their 6 children and 4 great-grandchildren. And last but not least, Dr. Greg Gillespie currently serves as the Chancellor for the Ventura County Community College District, otherwise called the VCCD. The district serves over 33,000 students each year. Dr. Gillespie served as the president of Ventura College for 4 years before moving into the chancellor position in 2017. He has worked for more than 27 years in the community college system and has served in faculty, director, dean, vice president, and president positions at 4 different community colleges in Arizona, California, and Washington. Dr. Gillespie is focused on supporting the colleges in providing student-centered access to quality and relevant educational programs and support services. He works with employer, education, and governmental partners to address shared educational and community priorities. He also serves on a number of local, state, and national organizations and boards. For the rest of the episode, Ashley, Bernardo, and Dr. Gillespie will be discussing support services for students with disabilities in VCCD, as well as answering some questions on how we should be moving forward to improve our current system.
I'm Ashley Amato. Thanks for having me. My first question is there some form of disability advisory council on each campus and at central office?
Yes, Ashley, thanks for that question. It's a pleasure to spend time with you today. I'm Greg Gillespie, Chancellor of the Ventura County Community College District, and And joining both of us is one of our trustees, and I'll turn it over to Trustee Perez for his introduction.
Hello, Ashley and listeners. I'm Bernardo Perez. I'm a Community College Board Trustee for Area 4, which represents Simi Valley and Moorpark. And Ashley, thank you for the invitation to participate today. I welcome the opportunity to mention all the programs and services that our 3 community colleges have to offer, and locally focusing on Moorpark College, which I happen to live in Moorpark as well. So thank you. And I think these particular services we're going to be talking about is a good way to kick off the series. Thank you.
So now I'll go ahead and answer your question. And just to repeat, you'd asked about, is there a disability advisory council at each campus? And, I'd like to emphasize from the beginning that community colleges, and specifically our 3 community colleges here in Ventura County, exist to serve students. That's what we're all about. And we have a number of governance committees and advisory councils across the colleges in the district that do include student representation, because the student voice is critical so that we can make adjustments and help to serve students to the best of our ability. So with regard specifically to a disability advisory council, each of the campuses do have an advisory council, and they meet once a year, and they do invite students to join into the meeting. And if any student is interested in attending the meeting this year, they can inform the coordinator of each campus. So at Moorpark College, there's the Access program. So Access stands for Accessibility Coordination Center and Educational Support Services. And Sylvia Arzunian is the coordinator there. And then at Oxnard College, they have an Educational Assistance Center, and Leo Orange coordinates that. Ventura College also has an EAC, Educational Assistance Center, and Patty Went is the coordinator of that. So they could help any student provide input through their advisory council meeting.
Thank you. My next question is, what is the training or onboarding of professors to help them understand the diverse needs of all students in the classroom?
Mm-hmm.
I'll start, Ashley, and the district and the board puts a great emphasis on professional development for all of our employees, including our faculty. And so there is onboarding, as you say, but then there's also continuous professional development opportunities made available to staff and faculty. And I mentioned staff because staff is often the first contact that all students have once they enter campus. So we're trying to do all that we can to make sure that the learning environment is open and accessible and supportive for all of our students. And just by further introduction, the 5 of us trustees, we are in a policy-making role, and the actual work is implemented and carried out at the direction of the chancellor, who is our single employee. So Chancellor Gillespie can give you more details on to answer your question.
Yes, so I'll go ahead and add that there is training for our new faculty coming on. Now we have tenured faculty, we have probationary faculty who are going through a tenure process, and we have a number of part-time faculty. Anybody who's hired as a full-time tenure track faculty member goes through a 4-year tenure process. And part of that process includes new faculty orientations that occur at each colleges. And the student support centers are part of that tour there. And I'll also mention that there are professional development opportunities, as Trustee Perez mentioned, throughout the year, and they have focused events during 2 flex week periods during the year, which are strictly set up for professional development activities. And there's been times where DSPS staff or the assistant center staff provides trainings for faculty. The other thing that occurs is for anytime a faculty member has a student needing an accommodation in their class, the assistant center staff will work directly with that faculty member as they support their student.
And Greg, you may want to describe what the DSPS stands for. I mean, listeners probably know that generally, but just to be clear.
Yeah, it's the Disabled Student Program Support. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of the state designation through which we get our funding to support the access and EAC centers.
Thank you. My next question is, what needs to be improved or added as a result of the incident at Oxnard College?
So Ashley, I appreciate you bringing up the incident there of the video that did show an Oxnard College faculty member interacting and behaving in a way that we don't condone when communicating with a hard of hearing student. The one thing the video shows is that there is improvements to be made in this area, because that's not the way we want our students to be treated or communicated with. As far as what needs to be improved specifically, I will state that we're in the process of investigating the incident. And as a result of that investigation, there will be findings that we'll study and look at, and that'll lead to recommendations for improvement, because we're always about making improvements for our students. And, we recognize that students spend the most time with two categories of people. One is their faculty that they're interacting with, who are teaching them, and the other is your peers, the other students there. And a faculty member does have that opportunity to help the student be successful, make them feel welcomed, want to be continue to get their degree, or you can have interactions that do the opposite. And we want to be supporting our faculty so that they know how to communicate with students in empathetic and supportive ways. So we'll be looking at details on how to improve that as the colleges look at their processes and we get the results from the investigation.
Right, and Ashley, with any situation on campus, we can always look at it for a learning moment. And as Chancellor Gillespie mentioned, is always seeking for continuous improvement. So you can count on us pursuing that as we continue.
Thank you. My next question is, how can we ensure that teachers put students first?
So all of our employees do have performance evaluation processes that occur. And if we look at faculty, part of the performance evaluation process includes student surveys of their experience in their class, as well as classroom observations by other faculty and the dean of the area. Those occur with different frequency depending upon type of faculty member, how long they've been there. But that's where there's the opportunity to observe what's occurring directly and provide helpful feedback to faculty so that we can be assured that they're supported in doing what we're all about, which is putting students first.
Yes, and Ashley, if you look at the mission of the community colleges and certainly our own district, we are all there because our mission is to provide access and success for our community college students. So that's in our core values. And so as the Chancellor just described, there's a process that is undertaken to ensure that we stay focused on our purpose and mission.
And another thing that I'll add just with that one is that, you know, I've worked in community colleges almost 30 years now, and throughout that time, the vast majority of employees, whether they're faculty members, our classified staff, our administrators, are here because they care about students, they care about education. So there really is an innate resolve among our employees to want to serve students well. And, you know, I'm just pleased that we're part of a system that provides higher education opportunities for so many people every year.
Thank you. My next question is there a district policy or procedure in place on how to enforce the fair treatment of students under ADA?
Ashley, good question. And as I mentioned, the board is a policy setting board, and it's the chancellor's role to carry out the policy direction set by the board. So what guides us is we have a catalog of policies touching upon the different aspects of community college life. And specifically, board policy 5300 speaks of student equity. And let me read real quickly from it. The board is committed to ensuring student equity in educational programs and college services. And that policy is carried out by the chancellor by establishing a student equity plan that ensures that all students, especially underrepresented students, have the opportunity to achieve their academic goals. Now, that's a policy statement. Behind the policy statement is always an administrative procedure, which the chancellor is more equipped to speak on, because, like I said, that's what guides him and his team to implement the policy.
Yes, and the only thing I would add to that is that, you know, as we work to implement the board policy to make sure we have student equity, each of the colleges have specific work groups focused on student equity and overseeing the implementation of the student equity plans. And the main objective of those plans is really to identify and remove institutional barriers to student success. And there's a number of ways in which the colleges are doing that. And that helps us then make sure that all students have the opportunity to succeed.
Thank you. Under board policy 5300, access offers supports for students with disabilities. What happens when a teacher/professor doesn't believe in offering those accommodations that are set forth in a confidential memo? In my experience at Moorpark, I had a similar situation to the one at Oxnard, where I reported it to Access, and it was reported to the dean of the professor. It wasn't resolved, and I had to drop the class. Fast forward, I am taking basic math again in order to keep my skills up and to retake algebra in the future, which I only have one more chance to take it. Students like me sometimes need more time in order to be successful in classes and feel accepted in them.
So first, Ashley, I really appreciate you sharing this experience. And I also, you know, I'm sorry that you had a challenging experience there in that class, but that's why this conversation is helpful, because we want to hear from our students. We want to know how to do better. So I appreciate you really bringing this up so that we can understand it and address it. The staff at the Access and EAC centers really recognize that each student is different. I mean, everybody has their own accommodations that they may need to help them be successful in the different classes that they may be interested in taking. So the way the process works, and I think you've worked with the Access Center at Moorpark College, I believe, is that each student meets with a professional in the DSPS office or the Access Center. And that's an interactive process where the staff there gets to know the student and work to come up with the most reasonable accommodations. So I just want everybody to be aware of that. It's really a proactive process where the staff's working with students to identify ways in which they can be supported in the classroom. And then each campus then works with the faculty to understand the need for accommodation. So that's some of the professional development. Now, when you look at communication of accessibility to services, every class syllabus at the colleges are required to actually have a statement for students encouraging them that if they need some additional support, have a learning disability or other disability, to contact the instructor or the Access Center or EAC centers. And so as part of that process, then once the accommodation is determined, that's communicated to the instructor for the class. And as you mentioned in your example, that had occurred, but it sounded like the accommodation wasn't granted or the instructor wasn't able to work that into the course. And normally, whenever that happens, it's the students encouraged to contact the Access or EAC office and ask for assistance. And if the staff or faculty are not able to resolve it, it can be escalated up to the vice president and others. So I'm not sure what occurred specifically in your instance or what the accommodation was, but I know that it's important that you're supported in your math classes, and I'd look towards Moorpark College making sure that the accommodation you need is able to be, worked out there. But again, each situation is different, and this is a highly regulated area, and the colleges really work to make sure that we follow the law around ADA and working with our students there. And ultimately, they're charged with providing reasonable accommodation. And that's a variable term to where that kind of gets worked out with each individual student, with the class, and with the professor there. And sometimes the accommodation is able to be made, but there are instances where that doesn't occur. And if that doesn't, because there's not a reasonable accommodation, we try to find alternative classes.
Thank you. My next question is there any diversity education for general ed students to be more inclusionary, aware of their implicit biases, and more accepting of students with disabilities? I have been in classes where other students don't want to work with me because they can tell I am different. This makes me feel sad and upset. No person should have to feel this way for trying to better themselves. This happened as recently as Tuesday. I was doing work in a breakout room with a group of students. I have a hard time verbalizing what I want to say, and this is a foreign language class, so it is even harder for me to speak. Another student said that it is awkward to have a student in here that doesn't talk that much and just look at the screen and do work on the paper. There was another student like me who left the breakout room right before this. She might have been uncomfortable too.
So Ashley, again, thank you for sharing your personal experience. And let me begin my response in a general nature. And everyone having to operate under the pandemic conditions has been very challenging, and those challenges have exposed issues and problems that may have always been there, but are now more pronounced, such as what you've just described about your experience. And the challenge for each of us is to, as you mentioned, recognize any implicit bias that we ourselves hold, and deal with that in a more positive way. The example you cited, it seemed, was coming from the students also, and because you mentioned some students, had some issues that they perceived working with you, and I don't know if we've historically addressed our implicit bias training to the students, or if it's in the curriculum, but we do have training, or I know it's available. In fact, even faculty, the academic senates, and the volunteers that come up with the programs for those two Flex Week situations that the chancellor mentioned have included training or workshops on implicit bias. And as the chancellor also mentioned, I'm sure this has been and it's a growing focus of attention nationally even. So it will be, if it has not been, I'm sure it will be part of professional development series moving forward. So I don't want to overreach my role, so I'll turn it over now, let the chancellor speak again, like I said, more directly regarding the activities on campus.
Yes, so I'd like to add that with regards to, is there any diversity education for general ed students? I would state that we need to do more of that. There's a really big push, and rightly so, to really look at our curriculum, look at all of our procedures and practices through a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective. And in the general ed classes, I believe that there's some classes where bias, social justice, diversity, equity are part of the classes there. However, it's not really embedded throughout the curriculum. So I know that the faculty at all three colleges are now looking at how do they integrate social justice, how do they integrate the history of all racial and ethnic groups throughout the different courses, whether it be a science class, whether it be an English class or a psychology class. So I'm really pleased to see that the faculty are taking this really seriously and working to really address this, because we have barriers in place. We have some systems that make it difficult, not just for hard of hearing students or students using our access and EAC centers, but our Latinx students, our students of low socioeconomic status, our Black students, and on. So we're doing the work now of looking at all of our policies, procedures to remove these institutional barriers and work to help all of us grow in how we support diversity, how we actionize equity, and work to be inclusive of everyone and have that opportunity for everyone to be successful. But we still have work to do, as do all of our colleges, all of our institutions, but I'm glad that this is at the forefront now.
Agreed. Title IX training is mandatory. I hope inclusion training will be in the future as well. What is our community college district doing to prevent this negative mindset from happening? Do college educators believe that all students can achieve at high levels? Studies show that in K through 12, when educators believe that students can achieve at high levels, they actually do. This is the whole professional learning community model that SVUSD has adopted. What do educators at the college level believe about students and their success. Because when I first enrolled in Access, I was so nervous. I went with my mom. The intake person, who is no longer there, suggested maybe Moorpark College isn't the right place for you. This was an Access intake counselor / teacher who also assumed that I was not able to succeed because I have a hard time talking out loud. If I would have listened to this counselor / teacher who was there to represent students like me, I wouldn't have a 24-unit ECE certificate. I certainly would not have thought I could pursue my associate's degree.
Ashley, again, thanks for sharing your experience there when you first arrived at the Access Center. And that gets back to something that I think I mentioned earlier in our conversation, which is that faculty members and our staff really have the opportunity to play a critical role in encouraging, supporting a student, and helping get them from where they are. I mean, we're here to serve everybody. You know, we don't have minimum admission requirements or anything like that. We're here to help anyone in our community improve their education. And that path is going to look different for everyone. And we have the flexibility and resources to help everyone reach their goal, which may develop over time as they work with us. So, you know, my expectation of all of our employees is that they're there to help the students attain the education that they'd like to receive there, and the services to help them, support them, and also identify the goals that they want to achieve, and we can support them in during their time at any of our 3 colleges there. And I think with regards to, do we believe, you know, all students can achieve it at high levels? I think that, again, community colleges are about supporting every student in achieving their potential. And everybody has potential as a student, as a human being, that we're here to support them and help them develop that so that they can support themselves, support their families.
Yeah, Ashley, and let me just add from my perspective that, number one, I'm sorry that you've had certain challenges thrown at you, basically. No one should have to have challenges placed in front of them that aren't called for, they just aren't called for. But part of again, everyone's challenge is to, and I don't mean to dismiss what your experience has been, to focus only on the negative, but to remember that, you know, we live in an imperfect world. We have, you know, every system is imperfect, but we try to do the best we can on a regular basis. And then again, just a personal observation about your success to date, though, with all that you have had to overcome from various means, is that I'm reminded of the saying that it doesn't matter what happens to you, it's what you do about it. And I think I'm very proud of your accomplishments thus far. So thank you.
Yes, and I also wanted to just, you know, recognize you and congratulate you on your ECE certificate. And it's great to know you're continuing on towards the associate degree as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I am grateful for my education at Moorpark. I am trying to maximize my potential. What
Great.
other gaps, implicit and explicit biases have come to the surface as a result of this recent incident? How will you commit to fixing and filling these gaps, and in what time frame?
Well, Ashley, as I mentioned earlier, we can look at any situation as a learning moment. And without focusing on any one particular instance, we are always looking. This could be a catalyst for looking at what we're doing, how can we do better, and what steps do we need to take. I think trying to relate an answer to the specific incident, it's too early to tell just yet. But rest assured that this is an unfortunate situation at the least. And actually it's an unacceptable situation, what we saw on the video, and we all hope to learn from it and do whatever corrective action or improvement action that may be necessary.
In addition to that is that, it's important to recognize that there are many components to personnel management and development. So we have, nearly 2,000 employees in our district serving, over 32,000 students a year. So it's a large organization, a lot is occurring. And we want to be providing our employees with the training, skills, and support so that they can serve our students well, and also make sure we're communicating to our students how they can engage services and what they can do when something doesn't go the way they'd like it to be, because our intent is to avoid any future instances of what was observed in that video. I mean, that's the goal of what we're about here. So as we do the investigation and the colleges look at kind of their procedures and processes and training, I see that taking about a 4 to 6 month period before that we'd be able to announce, here are the changes that are occurring as a result of the evaluations that have been done on how we can improve our actions and our roles there at the colleges. So looking at a time frame, I'd state, just know that over the next few months, a lot of work's going to be done that is going to be generating findings, leading to recommendations and actions that we can then share with everyone. But it'll be an ongoing process that, again, a lot of people will be focused on.
Thank you again. Recognizing that each campus's culture is different, is there a central policy or expectation that is shared with regards to treatment of campus community? Is this in mission policy? Is there a statement of students' rights?
Ashley, again, I'll refer back to the board policies that help direct how the chancellor's team and employees at all 3 campuses and the Ventura College East campus will conduct themselves, all mindful of the impact of their actions and words on the community. So let me begin with the first policy, and that is Board Policy 3430, Prohibition of Harassment. And again, I'll just read a couple of sentences here. All forms of harassment are contrary to basic standards of conduct between individuals. Let me reread that. All forms of harassment are contrary to basic standards of conduct between individuals. The district is committed to providing an academic and work environment that respects the dignity of individuals and groups. So of course, including students. And lastly, the district seeks to foster an environment in which all employees, students, unpaid interns, and volunteers feel free to report incidents of harassment without fear of retaliation or reprisal. And then the other policy is Board Policy 3410, non-discrimination. The district is committed to equal opportunity in educational programs, employment, and all access to institutional programs and activities. The district and each individual who represents the district shall provide access to its services, classes, and programs without regard, and then specifically mentions without regard to physical or mental disability. So those are two very prime board policies that it's simply stated here, but the administrative procedures that, again, the chancellor and his team at all campuses guide their conduct by helps meet these policies. And again, I'll turn it over to the chancellor, and maybe he can shed some light on to what these policies mean on the ground.
Yes, thank you. And when we look at the colleges, they all three do have a different culture, as you mentioned, but there's one thing that we all share in common, and that is the priority of putting student learning and student success first. And if we're going to have our students be successful, we need to have them supported and treated well. You know, each individual who makes that decision to pursue higher education with one of our colleges is making a significant decision. It takes an investment of time, it takes an investment of money, and we want that investment to be meaningful and worth something. We have, all of our students have their own unique stories, and a lot of our students have significant challenges to overcome. And as we implement the policies to make sure that we're creating an environment that is free of discrimination, that's free of harassment, that is non-discriminatory, that's a priority of what we work to do every day, so that each individual that comes to our colleges wanting to improve, wanting to learn more, get a certificate, get a degree, are supporting and doing that. And the really valuable part of this conversation today, besides just getting to know you better, because we hadn't had a chance to meet, it's been a real pleasure to engage with you today, but is to recognize too that, you know, the courage it takes for you to be able to bring up these challenging conversations and ask us these hard questions, so that we learn from you and we can make the adjustments to really continue to improve our colleges, so that we're doing what is central to all of us, and that is helping students first, helping our students to be successful.
Yes, and Ashley, I want to thank you and commend you for raising this issue and conducting this this platform, because I see that you're not doing it. You're doing it not just for yourself. You made mention of another student that had an unfortunate experience, possibly also. So you're thinking of that other student. And one benefit of this program may be that others out there can learn of the services that are available to help them pursue their educational pathway at any one of our three community colleges, where without that information, maybe they didn't think they could do it, you know? So, you know, again, this points out to how out of an unfortunate situation, which, you know, good things can happen. So thank you.
Thank you for explaining board policy. So what is the process for students to file a grievance when a board policy is not followed?
Yes, so all three colleges have available for students statements of students' rights and responsibilities. And within that, there is information on the grievance process. In fact, there's both a board policy and an AP that describes a student grievance process. So we have board policy 5530 and the corresponding administrative procedure that describes the process for students to grieve the violation of sexual discrimination, financial aid distribution, course grades, the right of free expression, and The final one is violation of district rules, BPs and APs, which you just asked about. So there's a specified grievance process, and students can be supported in learning about that process and how to progress through the process to resolve a grievance that any student may have.
So Ashley, I know at least new students, they go through an orientation process, and I'm sure they get deluged with a ton of information, some of which they may not necessarily see or retain the information. So maybe that's something for you to also consider, if there's a way that this and other important information that students should have uppermost in their minds or in front of them, maybe you or your peers, your classmates can let us know also.
Thank you for speaking with me today. I look forward to working with you to promote equity for all students. Thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you, Ashley. Look forward to meeting you in person.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley. Great to spend time with you this afternoon. And thanks for being a Moorpark College student. And congratulations again on the progress you're making.
Thank you. I really appreciate your support.
Thank you so much for listening to episode 9 of Radio See Me. To learn more about the ARC of Ventura County who helped create this episode, check out their website at thearcvc.org. If you're interested in learning more about Ventura County Community Colleges, you can check out their website at vcccd.edu. There are 3 community colleges in Ventura County. There's Moorpark, Ventura, and Oxnard. So anybody looking for higher education, you should go ahead and check them out. This episode and every episode is uploaded on our YouTube channel. To accommodate those who are deaf and hard of hearing, on YouTube this episode has closed captions. We also feature local graphic artists on the thumbnail of every episode, so if you are interested in sharing your artwork, reach out to us at tiny.cc/radioseemeforum. We are also always looking for people to join our team, so if you want to help and get to know your community better, check out our website under the tab About Us. Make sure to share this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and stay tuned for next week's episode with former campaign manager and 2020 City Council candidate Ryan Valencia. Have a great weekend to everybody except Michael LeBron. Tune in next week.